Well, y'all, the season is officially over. Tennessee's been eliminated from the playoffs, but Tennessee did finish the season 10-3. They were only one of three SEC teams that got into the playoffs, and I do think this season was successful. I think if you ask any Tennessee fan, they would tell you that if they made it to the playoffs, they would consider that season a success, especially adding in the fact that we beat Florida, we beat Alabama. The season wasn't perfect. It was ugly with a loss to Arkansas, who frankly is not that good. We lost to them. Ugly game at Georgia where we just couldn't play a whole game. Only played up to halftime and didn't come out after halftime and play hard at all. But for the most part, I was pretty pleased with this season. One thing that I was really pleased with was Dylan Sampson. He set the TD record all time at Tennessee. He broke almost a 100-year record from G. McEver. Just a great year from him. I remember this season being the front seven and the secondary playing really well. Our D-line, this is one of the best D-lines Tennessee's had in a really long time. And I was pleasantly surprised by the secondary as well. So there was more positives in 2024 than negatives. I'm going to go through these position groups now, and I'm going to kind of just dissect and I'm going to give every one of these position groups a grade. So first and foremost, let's start with the secondary. Now this was the position group that had the most questions. We had a ton of people leave for the portal, and we brought in a bunch of guys. Headlined by Jermod McCoy. We picked him up out of Oregon State, and this group did really good. Going into the Ohio State game, which the secondary didn't play great in the Ohio State game, but going into the Ohio State game, we were 17th overall in passing defense. And they left those guys on islands, Ricky Gibson, Jermod McCoy, and they were really given hard jobs. I mean, McCoy was on Alabama's leading receiver, Ryan Williams, and different things that he was asked to do. I thought McCoy had a great year. He was a second-team All-American. Ricky Gibson played well as well. Boo Carter, a bunch of those guys just played really good football. So I was really pleasantly surprised with our secondary. I'm giving them a B+ on this season, and they were a major reason why we made the playoffs in 2024. Now, the next position group I want to talk about is the wide receivers. Now, this was a position group I was disappointed in. I really thought they did not help Nico out this year as much as they should have. A lot of drop passes. They didn't get a lot of separation from secondaries, especially when we played better teams. They really struggled to get open and get separation. Nico a lot of times was just getting sacked because nobody was open. And the other thing was they were always hurt. Thornton, Squirrel White, constantly hurt. And I don't know if they finished the game this year all the way through without getting hurt. Brew McCoy was hurt some as well. So, this Ohio State game, I think we had three receivers out at the end of the game. And, of course, Sampson was out too, so we had no chance in that game. But receivers, disappointed. There were moments, Vanderbilt game. There's some other games here and there where they showed out. But for the most part, receivers did not live up to the billing. So I'm giving the wide receivers a C grade. It could be lower, it could be higher. That's kind of what I've settled on. I didn't feel like they did a great job this year. The next position group that I want to talk about is the linebackers. So this position group really started off extremely good. We had Arian Carter and Keenan Peely really manning the linebacker positions. Keenan Peely goes down in the Florida game. And it really hurt us because Keenan Peely was a stud. He was great at stopping the run. He was great at getting everybody lined up. He was good in pass, as far as the pass defense too. So we lost him for the year in the Florida game. It really hurt us. I thought Jeremiah Telander came in, played very well. Aaron Carter played good too. But what they did struggle in, they struggled with a lot of motion, a lot of eye candy that teams threw at them, like the Ohio State game, Georgia game, tight ends ate us up. They struggled. They're young. So there was moments where they really struggled. But for the most part, all season, they were pretty solid. So I'm giving them a B-. And these guys are back next year, and they're going to be a lot better. But they did a pretty decent job, but as far as getting out in the flat and, coverage and things like that, they struggled. And now the next position group that I want to talk about is the offensive line. Now this was a group that coming into this season I thought would be one of our better units, but a couple things happened that made this group not as good as they should have been. We brought in Lance Hurd from LSU and put him at the left tackle. He struggled mightily, specifically up front at the first 3 or 4 games of the year. We moved John Campbell to the right tackle. He did not have the season that he had in 2023. John Campbell only gave up 1 sack in 2023, and he gave up a lot more sacks this year. Him and Hurd had a lot of penalties too that were drive stallers. I thought Spraggins and Mays and Carrick played pretty darn solid. And I will say, Hurd and Campbell were pretty good run blockers. I thought this position group was good at run blocking and creating holes for those linebackers with Dylan Sampson, Peyton Lewis, and Deshaun Bishop. I thought they did a great job. But pass protection was an issue, and penalties was an issue. So the O-line did not live up to the standard, in my opinion, this season. I'm going to give them a B-. The next position group that I want to talk about is the defensive line. And, I think this position group had the most hype coming into the season. We had a ton of guys coming back. They were very senior-laden. And we played 12 guys up front. We rotated 3 different groups in there, and they all played a ton of minutes. I thought we were really great at run defense. I really thought times we created pressure on the QB, but our sacks were down this year. We lost Tyler Barron to Miami in the offseason, and he was. I think we missed him a lot more than we thought we would, because he was great on the other end, opposite of Pierce, of getting pressure. And we struggled to get to the quarterback at times. And James Banks did not blitz a lot this year. He really relied on that front four to get to the QB, and if we didn't get there, Banks really didn't know what to do. So we struggled to get to the quarterback. But overall, it was a unit that was, like I said, top 10 in defense as far as rush defense. And I thought they played really, really solid, really good all year, and they were really kind of the backbone of our defense this year. So I'm going to give them guys an A-. The next position group I want to talk about is the running backs. Just an amazing season from Dylan Sampson. Guy had over 1,400 total yards rushing. He had over 1,600 total all-purpose yards. And, this guy, there were some games, I think he got the ball over 25 times in a game. He was just a workhorse. I was also pleasantly surprised with Peyton Lewis. I was pleasantly surprised with Deshaun Bishop. Very good position group, and I thought those guys played very well. I hate that Dylan Sampson got hurt in the Ohio State game, he was hurt in the Vanderbilt game, so he didn't really play in the Ohio State game, really. He didn't have many snaps at all, so he didn't really get to go out on a great note with his career at Tennessee. But I cannot say enough good things about our running backs, specifically Dylan Sampson. He is the SEC Offensive Player of the Year and first team All-SEC. So running backs had a great year. I'm going to give them a A grade. I thought they were one of the stronger units on our team this year. The next group that I want to talk about is the tight ends. Now, this was a group I thought we would struggle at. These guys didn't have a lot of experience. Kitzelman, Stays had some, but he didn't have a lot of catches in his past at Notre Dame. So these guys were some unknown players. Well, I thought Heupel did a great job of mixing these guys in. They were great at run blocking. We went to that heavy personnel a lot. I thought they did an extremely good job at blocking and doing whatever they were asked. They also caught the ball very well, specifically Miles Kitzelman. And I thought he was one of the number one targets for Nico this season, and I thought he did a great job. I think going into this season, I gave our tight ends like a C grade. They're going to end the season, in my opinion, with a B grade. I thought they were good. They were one of the better units on the team, and I was really surprised how good they were this season. I think Holden Stays has a year or two left, but I think Kitzelman's out of eligibility. I wish he could come back because he was definitely a great pickup in the portal last year. And the last position group that I want to talk about is the QB. So listen, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Nico Iamaleava this season. He had a lot of issues, but I think most of his issues were he wasn't given a supportive cast that helped him. First and foremost, the receivers didn't get separation. They didn't help him out a lot. He had some tackles that were just getting blown off the ball, and he had no time to get rid of the football. So he had a really challenging season. Played in some hostile environments, and I think all in all, Nico Iamaleava played really good this season. I was surprised. I mean, you look at that Nebraska game, how hard he played, the heart he had. He had that cracked helmet, and he stayed in the game, and he kept playing really hard. You know, I think the problem with Nico is everybody had these crazy expectations that he was going to come in day one and be Peyton Manning. He was not that, but I thought he was good, and I thought he got better every game, and I think next year he's going to be miles better than what he was this season. But we need to go out and we need to help him. But I would give Nico a B. I think that's a fair grade. I think he did about a B job effort this year. And I'll say this too. As far as the future is concerned, now that I went through all these position groups, what this staff needs to do, they brought together a pretty good recruiting class again. It's a top 10 class. We have to go out here in the portal and we have to pick up some really good players. I think the wide receiver room, one, I think Thornton, Brew McCoy are gone for sure. I don't know about Squirrel White, but we've got to go out here and get some playmakers. I thought Brazel, the guy we picked up last year, Chris Brazel, I don't think he played that great this year. I think he disappointed. We can't miss on these players. We've got to get instant impact guys that can come in and make a big impact. And defensively, we're going to have to replace a lot of those guys on the defensive line. I really feel good about our linebackers and our secondary next year, but defensive line, we're going to have to bring in some guys that, they'll be instant impact. I still think we got some guys left over that played a lot this year. They weren't starters, but, replacing James Pierce, replacing Amari Thomas, and those are big shoes to fill. They were great players here, but, Tennessee, they got blown out in the playoffs after they got there. Everybody's kind of hanging their head, but I'm kind of glad in a way they got blown out, because when you get blown out like that, people are pissed off and people are focused. And I hope the University of Tennessee, Josh Heupel and his coaching staff say, hey, we can't have this happen again. We've got to assemble a team that can compete against an Ohio State or a Georgia or whoever, Oregon. We cannot go into a game and be this unprepared, and we need to have more talent on our roster. So I hope they go out there, get some guys that can make an instant impact, and Tennessee hopefully will be a top 10 team again next year and get to the playoffs next year. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will talk to you all later.